Good morning. I am Rochelle Buesa Masada from BEd 1E. And now I am discussing the lesson 3, which is the good life. In chapter 2, Science, Technology, and Society and the Human Condition. What is the good life? This is one of the oldest philosophical questions. It has been posed in different ways. How should one live? What does it mean to live well? But these are really just the same question. After all, everyone wants to live well, and no one wants to the bad life. But the question isn't as simple as it sounds. Philosophers specialize in unpacking hidden complexities, and the concept of the good life is one of those that needs quite a bit of unpacking. For what do phrases like the good life or living well mean? They can be understood in at least five ways, which are the moral life, the life of pleasure, the fulfilled life, the meaningful life, and the last one, which is the finished life. When we say the moral life, this moral conception of the good life has had plenty of champions. Socrates and Plato both gave absolute priority to being a virtuous person or over all other supposedly good things such as pleasure, wealth, or power. In Plato's dialogue, Gorgias, Socrates takes this position to an extreme. He argues that it is much better to suffer wrong than to do it, that a good man who has his eyes gouged out and is tortured to death is more fortunate than a corrupt person who has used his wealth and power dishonorably. They possess and practice many of most important virtues, and they don't spend all their time merely pursuing their own pleasure. They devote a certain amount of time to activities that benefit others, perhaps through their engagement with family and friends, or through their work, or through various voluntarily activities. Second, the life of pleasure. The ancient Greek philosopher Epicurus was one of the first to declare bluntly, that what makes life worth living is that we can express pleasure. Pleasure is enjoyable, it's fun, it's well pleasant. The view that pleasure is good, or to put it another way, that pleasure is what makes life worth living, is known as hedonism. Epicurus certainly praised all kinds of pleasures, but he didn't advocate that we lost ourselves in sensual debauchery for virtuous reasons. The fulfilled life. If Socrates emphasizes virtue and Epicurus emphasizes pleasure, another great Greek higher thinker, Aristotle, was views the good life in a more comprehensive way. According to Aristotle, we all want to be happy. We value many things because they are amends to another things. For instance, we value money because it enables us to buy things we want. We value leisure because it gives us time to pursue our interests. But happiness is something we value not as means to some other end, but for its own sake. It has intrinsic value rather than instrumental value. So, for Aristotle, the good life is the happy life. People may have plenty of pleasurable subjective experiences, but should we really describe them as living well? Aristotle would certainly say no. Aristotle agrees with Socrates that to live the good life, one must be morally good person. And also Aristotle agrees with Epicurus that a happy life will involve many and varied pleasurable experiences. We can't really say someone is living the good life if they are often miserable or constantly suffering. Aristotle's idea of what it means to live well is objectivist rather than subjectivist. It isn't just a matter of how a person feels inside, although that does matter. Next, the meaningful life. A lot of recent research shows that people who leave children are not necessarily happier than people who don't have children. Indeed, during the child raising years, and especially when the children have turned into teenagers, parents typically have lower levels of happiness and higher levels of stress. But even though having children may not make people happier, it does seem to give them the sense that their lives are more meaningful. For many people, the well being of their family, especially their children and grandchildren, is the main source of meaning in life. This outlook goes back a very long way. In ancient times, the definition of good fortune was to have lots of children who do well for themselves. But obviously, there can be other sources of meaning in a person's life. And the last one, the finished life. The Greeks had a saying, call no man happy until he's dead. There is wisdom in this. In fact, one might want to amend it to call no man happy until he's long dead. For sometimes a person can appear to live in a fine life and be able to check all the boxes: virtue, prosperity, friendship, respect, meaning, and many more. Yet, eventually be revealed as something other than what we thought they were. Having a good moral would mean to lead us to the good and happy life. Throughout history, man has persistently struggled in order to attain human flourishing and has given birth to different schools of thought which aim for the good and happy life. So here are the next: how humans attempt to attain what is deemed to be a good life. Materialism. The first materialists were the atomists in ancient Greece. The atomist philosopher thought that universe and matter are only made up of atoms or the atomos or seeds. The founders of this theory was a Greek philosopher, Leucippus, and his disciple Democritus. These beliefs aims that comfort, pleasure, and wealth are the only highest goals. Hedonism. Epicurus continued the theory of materialism, which does not by any notion of afterlife. The hedonists see the end goal of life in attaining pleasure. For hedonists, since life is limited, one must indulge itself with pleasure. They strive to maximize their total pleasure. The difference of pleasure and pain, and if the pleasure was finally gained, happiness remains fixed. Next, Stoicism. Stoicism is one of the school of thought in philosophy created for those who lives in real world. It was founded in Athens by Zeno of Citru. Stoicism asserts that virtue is happiness and judgment should be based acts on behavior rather than words. People do not have any control and must not rely on external events, only for themselves and their responses. This philosophy helps a persons to overcome destructive emotions and acts on what can be acted upon. Stoicism also differs from other schools of thought with its purpose as a practical application rather than intellectual enterprises. Marcus, one of the principal leaders of Stoicism. Theism. Theism is a belief that one or more gods exist within the universe, and that gods are often omniscient or all knowing, omnipotent or all powerful, and the omnipresent, which are all pervasive. This belief incorporates monotheism. When we say monotheism, it is the beliefs in many gods. The Abrahamic faiths, such as Judaism, Christianity, Islam, as well as Hinduism, are all theistic religions. Humanism. Humanism is another school of thought that human beings have the right and responsibility to give meaning and shape their own lives. Humanists see themselves not only as the stewards of creation, but as individuals who have control for themselves as well as the world outside them. Scientists eventually turn to technology to ease the difficulty of life, that is, to live comfortably. The next question: what is the ultimate goal of good life? There are two philosophers answered the question, what is the ultimate good goal of a good life? According to Aristotle, the ultimate goal of a good life, them happiness to be a vulgar idea, stressing and not all desires are worth pursuing us. Even though some of them may yield pleasures, they would not produce wellness. Aristotle also taught that true happiness is found by leading a virtuous life and doing what is worth of doing. He argued that realizing human potential is the ultimate human goal. Bonnewell. Bonnewell emphasized that feeling good is not good enough for a good life. Each person must realize his or her potentialities, which would lead him or her to the greatest fulfillment diamond. What is the role of technology in achieving good life? According to Bergrat, in his essay about how technology could contribute to a sustainable world, technology will support and enhance a good life for all citizens without compromising the Earth's ecosystem or the prospects of later generations. As Stats stated, a good life requires essentially basic human needs are met and aspirations for freedom, belonging, and self realizations are fulfilled as much as possible. Bergrat also noted that technological innovation in the context of the good life and how it can be supported or threatened, due ending in the way technological innovations are influenced and steered by human decision and institutions. Social media, as an example, has been very effective in doing this. Communication has been a lot easier for people from different parts of the world. They can talk and see each other in real time and send messages instantly without waiting for a letter mail or to arrive. Technology also allowed us to fiddle with our sexuality by injecting hormones in order to alter the biochemical in our body. So Aristotle says that happiness depends on ourselves. And that's all. Thank you.